What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. So I'm going to go over the optimal draft strategy in a snake draft in which you have a top three pick. For the purposes of this video, I'm assuming a PPR league and a 12-team league with a pretty standard roster of two wide receivers, two running backs, one quarterback, one tight end, one flex, and about seven bench spots. I will touch on how different variations could impact my strategy a little bit as well, but just wanted to let you guys know that this is the base case that I'm operating on. So I'll be doing a series here where I'll be going over different optimal draft strategies at pretty much every single draft slot. I'm doing a top three one, then I'll do picks 4 through 6, picks 7 through 9, and then picks 10 through 12. So no matter where you're drafting, I should have you covered here. I know I've done a lot of auction content lately, so I know most of you probably don't play in auction leagues, so even though I love them, I do want to give you guys some coverage in terms of what to do in snake drafts as well. Obviously, that's the most popular format, and everyone does those as well. So those are obviously plenty of fun. I think there's a lot of strategy that goes into those as well. Maybe not quite as much as an auction draft, but it's really good to go into those drafts with a plan. They're definitely much more predictable than auction drafts, so your preparation really can go a little bit further because you can almost plan how you want to build your team going into the draft, and you can be pretty predictably confident that things are going to go out the way you or turn out the way you plan them to. So these are really helpful. I highly recommend that on top of listening to videos like this, you guys do your own mock drafts as well. I'll do some mock drafts at the course of the offseason as well. You guys should look at those and just play around with different builds and see what you guys like the most. But having done that myself, I'll just let you guys know that this video is sort of how I've found the best way to approach building my rosters is with these spots. So it's been a lot of fun making these videos like this and really love doing it. So yeah, let's get into the round one pick. So with the top three pick, I think in round one, it's just pretty much a lock. You should take the best wide receiver available. There are three wide receivers in Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Tyreek Hill that I think all have legitimate shots to finish the wide receiver one. I think I'm pretty comfortable putting all three of those guys in tier one this season. Obviously, I do think Justin Jefferson is the number one between these three because just of a little bit of the injury concern with the other two quarterbacks, Joe Burrow with his banged up Achilles, and then Tua Tagovailoa with his potential concussion issues. I think you could also put Cooper Kupp in this list if you wanted to. You could almost round this out to a top four pick, but for me personally, when I get to Kupp, I get a little too concerned. I want to go towards a running back at that point. But with the top three pick, I think all three of these guys are pretty much audio picks for me. I would take them in that order: Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. And I just think that there's so many great values at the running back positions later on in drafts that I just have a hard time taking one so early. The good wide receivers really do dry up a lot faster than normal this year. The wide receivers have really been pushed up draft boards quite a bit compared to previous seasons, and that means that I really want to just start my draft out hot, get one of these top guys early on, and I'm going to be able to build a really good running back room even if I wait on the running back position. Next up in round two, for me personally, if Tony Pollard or a higher ranked RB is available to you, then you should take them. That's just pretty much an auto pick for me. You wasted, or didn't waste your first round pick, but you spent your first round pick on a wide receiver. You need to get that running back. It's really important to get high end running back production, even in a season in formats like PPR formats, even in three wide receiver formats as well. It's just really great to get a top tier running back. Guys outside of Pollard that I think have a legitimate shot of falling this far that I would look at. I think Josh Jacobs is a guy that you might see start falling. It depends on when you do your drafts, but I think a lot of people are really worried about what's going to happen to him this season. I personally think it's more than likely that he's just going to play all 17 games. The Raiders are going to want to run him in the ground and clearly not extend him. They'll just let him put up really good numbers again and then go sign elsewhere. And that's going to mean he's going to be a really good fantasy producer as well. I have no problem taking Josh Jacobs as a late second round pick. He's got a legitimate shot to be a top five running back as well. But in general, my running back target here would be Tony Pollard. That seems to be the most likely outcome. And I think Tony Pollard himself also has top five upside this season. Otherwise, I would definitely look to just take the best wide receiver available. You're going to build a really dynamic duo if you do that. Some common targets that are available in these ranges are guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chris Olave, and Jalen Waddle. I'd probably take them in that order, although Chris Olave is definitely the one that's most likely to be here. So you can pretty much get Olave at the end of round two in any draft you do, and I love doing that, starting that draft with like Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson, and Chris Olave is going to give you a really dominant starting duo this season. So once we get into round three, there's actually a lot of nuance here. This is where I think you can really look to take one of those top three quarterbacks. I think a lot of people would look to be doing it in the end of round two. I think you can if you really do just hate the other options available. Maybe you're not as high on some of the wide receivers I listed, or maybe none of those running backs make it to you. So if you really want to take one of those quarterbacks at the end of round two, you can. But I personally find that I like getting the value of just getting them in the early third. So if either one of those three quarterbacks are there, I highly recommend taking them. If Mark Andrews is there, I also think he's a great pick. If it happens to come down to there being both great quarterback and Mark Andrews, my lean tends to be taking Mark Andrews because I think that you can get a really good quarterback later on. So I'm more prioritizing getting Mark Andrews. I think he's going to be a larger difference maker this season. But assuming that both the quarterbacks and Mark Andrews are gone, then you've got even more options. If you took a running back in round two, I'm generally just looking to take a wide receiver here in round three. There are a lot of really good wide receivers that you can get in the early third, guys like Chris Olave, who I touched on in the second round, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, all those guys are really great picks. I love getting those guys in round 3. But if you drafted a wide receiver in round 2, so you spent your first 2 draft picks on a wide receiver, I think it's pretty important to get a running back here. There are a lot of guys I like getting. The guy I find myself drafting the most right here is Ramondre Stevenson. I think he's got a legitimate shot to be a top 5 running back this season. Keep an eye out, though. The Patriots have been pretty active in terms of scouting out other running backs. I do expect them to bring another running back into this backfield. They just don't really have anybody behind Ramondre Stevenson that's going to warrant getting any touches. So I think Ramondre's still going to be a top 10 guy, even if they bring someone in like Ezekiel Elliott. And they could bring in a guy like Darrell Henderson, who they've visited with. If they bring someone in like that, nothing's going to happen to Ramondre's production. If they bring in Zeke, it'll just be a minor just little lesser expectations for Ramondre, but still have super high expectations for him this season. If you don't get Ramondre there, though, there are other guys that I'm pretty happy with in round 3. Jahmyr Gibbs is the high upside pick. He's a guy I would probably take a shot on just because you're really looking for a league-winning option here, especially if you don't have a running back yet. You want to be giving yourself a shot at a top 5 guy, and Gibbs does have that potential. Outside of Gibbs, I think Najee Harris and Joe Mixon are good picks here as well. Both those guys will probably be fringe running back 1s, and you're getting them in round 3. It's just really good value this season. And really, though, in general, the values in running back are so good later on in drafts that I don't want to leave round 3 with more than one running back. In general, I'm only looking to start 2 running backs in my fantasy leagues. Most leagues allow for 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex, maybe 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. And once you get to that flex spot, you really do want to be prioritizing the wide receiver position. So in general, I only want 2, maybe 3 startable running backs, or at least prioritizing that on my total roster after the first 7 rounds. And I think it's just really important to get good wide receivers here. So I would do your best to only leave with only one good running back after round 3. I would not make an effort to get 2. It just tends to be sacrificing the opportunity to get the really good values later on. In round 4, this one's pretty easy for me. If you don't have a quarterback yet and Justin Herbert's here, which he normally is, he's about an auto pick for me. I think he's got a legitimate shot to be the quarterback 1 this season. I got him ranked as my quarterback 4. I think he's just going to have a really monster season, and I love drafting him here. If Herbert happens to be gone, though, and you still have 0 running backs, you've got to take the best running back available. Miles Sanders would be the best guy based off of ADP that should be there. I like Miles Sanders quite a bit. I think he's got a legitimate shot to be a top 12 guy this season. If you also don't have Miles Sanders available to you and you still have no running backs, I think you kind of do need to force a running back onto your roster at this point. You can wait if you want to and just guarantee that you get one in round 5. So you can play a bit of the ADP game here, but guys like James Conner, Alexander Mattison, and Cam Akers, I think, are all going to be fringe top 15 guys this season. They're guys that I would prioritize taking in at least one of in rounds 4 or 5. I think it's just really important to make sure you get one of those guys. They're going to be really solid guys for you, and if you don't have a running back, your time is running out. So at round 4, you kind of want to make sure that you get at least one. Granted, like I said, you can play the ADP game here. Maybe you've got the second pick in the draft, so there's only 2 picks between you and your next pick in round 5. If you want to take the best wide receiver available and know that you're going to get one of those 3 guys with your next pick, I think that's totally fine. Great wide receivers that you could take in round 4 include guys like Keenan Allen, which normally doesn't make it there, but he could. Guys like Jerry Jeudy, Terry McLaurin, all guys that are really great picks in this range, guys that I have high expectations for this season. So in round 5, if you still don't have a running back, at this point you absolutely need to take one. Like I said, take the best of James Conner, Alexander Mattison, or Cam Akers. I would take them in that order, but you're welcome to rank those guys however you want. And even if you only have one running back at this point, I would be more than okay taking another one in round 5. Like I said, if you went 3 wide receivers to start your draft, or 2 wide receivers and a tight end or a quarterback, going in rounds 4 and 5, taking Miles Sanders and one of those 3 running backs, that's going to give you a really solid running back duo. You will have spent 4th and 5th round picks on them, not too much, and you're still going to have really dominant wide receivers. However, if you have a running back and you're in a 3 wide receiver league, I would recommend you take another receiver here. Make sure you get at least your 3rd wide receiver by the end of round 5. Guys like Jerry Jeudy again, Terry McLaurin, Mike Williams are all really great picks here. So if you have 2 running backs and you're in a 2 wide receiver league, make sure, or if you have 2 running backs regardless, make sure you take a wide receiver in round 5. If you have 1 running back and you're in a 3 wide receiver league, I would also prioritize taking a wide receiver in round 5. So if you're in round 6 and you still don't have a tight end, I would look to take Dallas Goedert here. He's one of my favorite tight end options this season. I've got him ranked as my tight end 3. It's way ahead of his ADP right now. I think he's just going to be a real difference maker at the position, and he's about the only guy that I'm really looking to take after Mark Andrews. If you miss on Dallas Goedert here, I think you're pretty much punting on the quarterback position. There's a lot of good late flyers you can take, and you're just probably going to look to take 2 guys at the end of your draft. Same thing with the quarterback position. If you still don't have one here, round 6 is the round I like to take Trevor Lawrence. He's moved up in ADP quite a bit, so it's pretty rare that you'll see him in round 6 here. But if he's there, he's an auto pick for me if I still don't have a quarterback. And if I miss out on Trevor Lawrence, again, I'm probably waiting on the quarterback position, looking to take guys like Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, guys later on in drafts that I think still have pretty high ceilings this season. Um, in round 6 here, if you still only have one running back, I highly recommend that you just reach and take David Montgomery. There's a really significant tier drop after David Montgomery, and it's going to be really tough to build a quality running back 2 if you miss on him. So in round 6, I think it's really important to make sure you get that second running back. And if you have 2 running backs, I think you're comfortable enough waiting, trying to get the best wide receiver here if you want to. There are guys like Tyler Lockett, Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Brown. They're really great picks here, and guys I think are going to be really solid for you this season. And in round 7, this is the David Montgomery round for me. If he's available, pretty much regardless, assuming you don't have at least 3 running backs at this point, which you probably shouldn't if you're following this sort of roadmap, then I would definitely take David Montgomery here. Even if it makes him your 3rd running back, it's just going to be really nice to have him as that option on your roster. Like I said, if he's your 2nd running back, you probably should have just taken him in round 6 to be safe, but if you played the ADP game and made it to you in round 7, you should absolutely do that. If for whatever reason David Montgomery's gone, or for whatever reason you have 3 running backs already and just don't want to take that player, there are a lot of good wide receivers here I like as well. Guys like Tyler Lockett, Brandon Ayuk, Marquise Brown, Deontay Johnson, Mike Evans. All of those guys are really great picks for me in round 7. I think they're all going to have good seasons and be really useful players for you this season. So, and now if, again, for whatever reason, if all of those guys are gone, I think my favorite reach in this spot would be to take Jordan Addison. It's a little bit of a reach if you go in normally in like the end of round 8, but I think he's a guy that's got a legitimate shot to be a top 24 guy. And if you're in a spot where you're just sort of looking for a name, you don't really like all the options available, I think reaching for Jordan Addison's totally okay here. Especially because you need to note that with an earlier draft pick or a pick that's on one of the ends of the spectrum for a snake draft, there's going to be a very significant wait time between your pick here and then the next pick. So just take the best guy available. Make sure that you don't get too caught up in the ADP. You can't really afford to do that because, like I said, there's probably 20 picks between you and your next pick. So just make sure that you get a guy that you want. You're going to feel like you have to reach a couple times, but that's sort of the price you have to pay for getting a top 3 pick, and it's definitely worth it in the end. So to recap, after the first 7 rounds, I think you should at minimum have 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs. On top of this, the goal would be to acquire a value at the quarterback position. According to these guys, I think that in round 3, if you can get Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, or Patrick Mahomes, you should absolutely do that. In round 4, if you can get Justin Herbert, you should actually do that. And in round 6, if Trevor Lawrence is available, you should do that as well. Other than that, if none of those values present themselves, I find myself just waiting on the quarterback position. And on top of that, I would also be looking to just try and lock in value at the tight end position. The 2 best values I see earlier on in this draft are Mark Andrews in round 3. If he's available, I'd absolutely take him. And like I said earlier, if he and one of the top 3 quarterbacks are available in round 3, I tend to lean Mark Andrews anyway. And then in round 6, if Dallas Goedert's available, he's basically an auto pick for me if I don't have a tight end. So in general, you're going to be looking to have at least 3 wide receivers and 2 running backs. If things go great, you've got 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and you have a top 3 quarterback or a top 4 quarterback and a really high-end tight end. And if things don't go great, maybe you miss out on getting both the quarterback and the tight end. You're probably leaving this with 4 really good wide receivers, 3 really good running backs, and then you can look to just sort of piece together a quarterback and a tight end and play waivers, straighten the positions later on. So I think that'll really set you up for a really solid season. You're going to have a really quality wide receiver room, having spent probably 2 of your first 3 picks on them. You're going to have a really great core there, and you should be able to get plenty of running back production or make up for it by having really elite tight end and quarterback production if you miss out on the top tier running backs in round 3. So that'll do it for the optimal draft strategy. If you have a top 3 pick video, be sure to stay tuned. If you have a draft pick in either picks 4 through 6, 7 through 9, or picks 10 through 12, I'll be sure to be putting out videos of those in the next week or so as well, just so you guys can really cover all those bases and make sure I've got a video out for all of you guys as we get into draft season. Up next, I'll be putting out a most reliable wide receivers video, sort of to go in the same tune of those safest quarterback and safest running back videos that I've already put out, and I'll touch on the tight ends, and I'll sort of get into some must-draft players that I think you should be avoiding, and really try and give you guys as much analysis as I can before your drafts happen. Really want to be here to help you guys dominate your drafts and help you guys win your league. If this is your first time on the channel, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. It's been really awesome to see the channel grow so much. We're at over 560 subscribers. We just got accepted to be the member of the YouTube partnership program, so that's super cool. I didn't really ever think we'd get that big, but we are there. There is a members option right now. It's just like $1. Just figured I'd add it in case you guys wanted to support the channel. Totally not required. There's some cool little perks. I might be looking to do some live streams, might turn on members only chat here and there as we get maybe a little bit bigger, but right now it's too early. I'm not going to really be throwing too much out there. I just want it to be, let you guys know that it's an option. There should be perks that come along with that as we go forward. It's going to be a lot of fun watching the channel grow and really building up a community here with you guys. So, been super exciting. I made the announcement yesterday as well that there will be a subscriber league. So if you guys happen to see this video and it hasn't filled up, feel free to email me. I will make an announcement as soon as the league's filled up. I'll probably make that announcement on Twitter. So if you do double check that, feel free to email me though as well if you want to get into that league. The first 11 people to reach out will be invited into the league, and then they'll get 24 hours to join the league before I'll start accepting further applications. So it's been a lot of fun. Going to be really fun going into football season with you guys. It's going to be fun building this community. And if you did like the video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really helps me, helps grow the channel, helps the YouTube algorithm, helps me know that I'm doing a good job as well, and surely helps support the channel on top of that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.